This is the Horse Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wood.
And I'm Jennifer Connor.
From Equestrian Businesswomen. And you are listening to Equestrian B2B, the podcast that brings together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and equestrians for conversations about how they build and sustain a successful business.
On today's show, we are talking to two women who started their own equestrian retail businesses. Mary Campbell of Mare Modern Goods and Hope Birsh of Maryland Saddlery chat with us about how they found their way into starting and owning their retail businesses. Mary Campbell is a designer, painter, and illustrator. She has worked with some of the leading firms in the Fortune 500 to create relevant and innovative design and brand identities. Her clients include Procter & Gamble, McDonald's, Emory University, the Coca-Cola Company, SunTrust Bank, NISA International, Georgia Pacific, Newell Rubbermaid Corporation, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. She currently takes limited freelance projects and owns her own company, Mare Modern Goods, an equestrian brand for gifts, apparel, and accessories.
Hope Birsh grew up in New York City, more specifically in the Bronx. She began riding at 5 years old when she followed her brother to his weekly riding lessons at Fox Hill Farm in Westchester, New York. During high school, Hope began teaching and riding at a barn in Van Cortlandt Park because she could walk there every day from school. She bought her first horse at 13 and has never been without one since. After college, Hope spent a year in Alabama focusing on eventing and training with Jim Graham. In 1985, Hope moved to Maryland and taught riding at McDonough School, and in 1989, she opened her first location of the Maryland Saddlery. It was a tiny 750-square-foot store located near the school so all her former students could shop. Hope spent many years advising equestrian apparel brands on fit and patterning, especially with the fit of children's show clothing. In 2006, Maryland Saddlery opened their first consignment location across the parking lot at their current location in Butler, Maryland. With the success of that store, Hope opened a second in Crofton, Maryland in 2011 and a third store in Hocassin, Delaware in 2013. Now the three stores feature a perfect balance between new goods, used goods, and overstock, which is new with tags at a discount goods. Shoppers and consigners can buy and sell equestrian equipment, apparel, and supplies exactly how they choose.
Hi, ladies. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you today and find out more about you and your businesses and be able to share your stories and your experience with our listeners.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to meet Mary at Equitana this year, and I've gotten some of her brand, her shirts and stuff. I was really excited that you were able to make it. And Hope, I haven't met you before, but it's really nice to meet you. And Jen shared some interesting information with me about things that are going on in your business. So it sounds like it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, we got lots of good stuff coming out.
That's great. Mary, let's go ahead and start with you. If you could tell us a little bit how you became interested in your fashion and kind of lifestyle brand that you have. And tell us a little bit about Mare Goods and what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in graphic design and marketing and advertising to some degree. So I kind of approached it from that angle, not so much from the fashion angle per se. So I had been working in the marketing world for about 16 years when I got back into riding. And then, of course, I was looking around trying to find out what other brands were out there since I had left the industry. And, I was hoping I could find things that reflected my design sensibilities, which were more bright and colorful and pattern driven, sort of in the Mary Mecco, Bowden vein of design. And really didn't find anything that kind of fit that bill. So I was at a point where I could leave my job and go back to freelancing and contract work. And I decided that would be a good time to start my own thing and combine my passion for horses and the equestrian world with the real world talents that I had. So that was sort of how I got into starting Mare. And it was really just about bringing color and fun and patterning and that vitality and joy that I feel around being around horses to some of the products that I was creating.
That's great.
Equestrian kind of has the reputation of being very traditional in the way
Beige.
we present ourselves and beige and black. So I think that's really cool that you want to bring something different into it and be more colorful.
Absolutely. I love the traditional look of things too. So it's not about replacing that. It's just about adding something additional to the mix and kind of loosening it up a little bit. I mean, my writing background now is now in eventing. So eventers do tend to be more colorful. So I kind of hopped into the right avenue for my writing pursuits. But, even seeing some of that color and patterning being brought into the hunter ring and, with some of the hunter riders and maybe more traditional riders has been interesting. And I've seen a lot of change really in the past couple of years. So it's exciting to see those shifts and the umbrella opening up to include more people and different kinds of things.
And Hope, how about your story with your tack shop with the saddlery? How did you get interested in that?
So I came to Maryland, where I have now been living for a really long time as a riding instructor, where we all sort of begin our careers in the horse world after college, and quickly realized there wasn't a tack shop that really catered to what people needed. They tended to dress them up sort of like you were saying, in traditional goods, head to toe, whether they were starting out or not starting out, and sending them off to us. And here they would arrive overdressed and overspent and completely in the wrong equipment. So after 3 years of teaching, I decided my family is a big independent business family. We are years and years of generations of teachers and actual retailers. My family originally came to this country many years ago to sell men's clothing. So we've been in the retail business forever. But I decided to open a retail store because I felt like I could cater to the students I was teaching. I was teaching at a private school in Maryland called McDonough, which has an enormous riding program. And I could sell clothing that children really needed. But when I got into it, so I opened the store in 1989. We're going into our 33rd year of business this year. And I started working with manufacturers right away. Taylor Sportsman, before the current owners, but the original Taylor Sportsman and a lot of other original brands to rebuild their patterning to fit children instead of taking a grown-up clothing and squashing it in the wrong directions. So I really helped them redesign their patterns for jodhpurs and show clothing and boots and paddock boots and redesigning a lot of tall boots with manufacturers. So that was really fun to do to begin with, especially as a young entrepreneur and a young retailer. So that was sort of where we started. We've moved the store twice since. Now we're in our final resting place. Expect us to be forever. And then we have two more. We opened 2 over the years. And so we're now 3 stores plus a women's clothing store because riders never have time to go shopping.
Oh, that's really cool. And so you have the brick and mortar store, but do you also do online as well?
We have 3 brick and mortar stores plus a women's clothing store. And then Maryland Saddlery has marylandsaddlery.com, which is our website. Maryland Saddlery is an interesting hybrid. We are a really super unusual store. Mary and I have worked together over the years. I've purchased her stuff for sale in our store, and she's also sends us sometimes goods to sell on our Overstock division. So we have all sorts of ways that we partner with equestrians all over the world now. So right now we are new. We buy new goods like a normal tack shop. Maryland Saddlery is a regular tack shop. Always new things that we would never sell used, like a helmet. And then we also have used, which is our regular customers just humping in all the equipment, gently used equipment that they no longer need. That's the lion's share of our business now. And then we have an Overstock division, which is our partnership with over 90 tack shops around the United States. And they send us goods that they cannot sell in their store. Every store has goods that cannot move. So we are sort of like the marshals of the horse world. So a lot of what you'll see on our website is Overstock, which is new with tags at a discounted price. And it's a really kind of fun aspect of the business. So all 3 pieces of equipment, new, used, and Overstock, literally are hung on the same rack. And people can buy as they feel most comfortable.
Oh, that's a great concept. I really like that. And Mary, how about, do you actually have a brick and mortar store?
I do not. I started with my business being strictly online, and then I started going to horse shows and kind of having a small setup that I do that way. And I purchased a cargo trailer that I converted into a mobile boutique. So I take that all around to different shows, and different events and that sort of thing. I kind of wanted to stay away from the brick and mortar just because it's quite expensive to have the retail space. And, when you're a startup, you don't want to spend money on things that are not really going to be a smart investment. So I'm holding off on that aspect of it. I may not ever do the brick and mortar just because I have good success with my website and through going to some of the shows and events that are relatively close by.
And then you also partner up with like Hope, different tack shops, and they sell your goods as well?
I do. I have sort of a limited wholesale aspect to my business. I personally am still a little bit on the fence about whether or not I want to dip into the wholesale versus direct-to-consumer market. So I don't really push it too much. But if someone approaches me and they want to carry the goods, then I will usually partner with them. It's a small portion of my business right now.
I think sometimes people, when they want to start a business, maybe they do something because it's what they want to do or it's what they want to buy. And I think the two of you really noticed in the industry something lacking. Hope there wasn't a good tack shop around you, and Mary, there weren't items that had that color and pattern, and seeing something that isn't available and being able to fill that niche and that spot is a really cool way to be able to start a business and know. How did you kind of know there may be a market for it?
Yeah, I think for me, it was just a matter of looking at kind of the broader retail space and looking at other brands that are not necessarily equestrian brands, but brands that I was drawn to, and just looking to see what people are drawn to and interested in, and noticing that those options were not really available for the equestrian market or were so limited. It made me realize, well, there is a market for it. There are tons of people that love horses. There are tons, and these are the same women that are purchasing goods from Lululemon or Bowdoin or wherever you're looking. So, it's just a matter of taking the aesthetic and the concept of the horses and the equestrian stuff and applying it to the same goods that they were already purchasing, but in a more modern and colorful way. So, and I kind of trust my gut on those things to some degree too. I know if I like it, then it's likely there's other people out there that are going to like it. I always check my gut, but I do trust my gut on those kinds of things too.
Mm-hmm. Hope, is that a same situation for you?
Well, the other hat I wear is a retail coach. So it's a kind of cool other hat. So I'm a whiz-bang retail certified coach. What I do through whiz-bang is help other retailers kind of work on, and grow their businesses. And that gives me a kind of a slightly different picture on how equestrian businesses function. I mostly work, I would say 100% with equestrian businesses. There are other retail stores that have approached, but I like working in our industry best. And really, like Mary has a great idea and is sure of herself and had been in the industry long enough to know what was missing. But a lot of people make an enormous mistake by trying to sell something they want just because they want to sell it. And it has nothing to do with the research and has nothing to do with what's out there. And they sink a lot of funds in doing something because, I said there weren't any good tack shops, but really I was coached by my father, who was an amazing businessman. And the first thing he said to me is, go buy a tack shop that's out there. That's good. So, get out of your comfort zone, stop complaining and go look. And I did approach a tack shop that was in the area, and I checked them out through our industry, and I heard that they could never pay their bills, and they never paid their bills on time, and they were all on COD. And so I was like, okay, this is not a shop this is not a shop for me to buy. And the other ones were very old and historic and not kind of fun and new. So I knew that there was a white space. But then my brother, this is sort of a sideways moment, but my brother, who was a restaurant critic, said to me, you never open a restaurant unless you have 200 patrons. And the difference between a patron and somebody that comes in and eats once is a patron patronizes. They come to your restaurant on a regular basis. So if you don't have 200 people you could personally name who are going to support your business. You really can't open your business. Like, you can. It's going to be really hard. But you've got to go with your warm leads and your warm support first, because you can't just jump in and go to cold, right? Yeah. So I taught at McDonough School for 3 years. I taught over 1,000 kids to ride, because this private school pushes everyone through the riding department. You go swimming, you learn volleyball, you go riding. So I had 1,000 kids, right, that knew Miss Hope. And that made me pretty sure that I had a running start at it. So you can go with your gut. You can do a lot of things, but you got to test it first. You got to do your research, and then you have to have a lot of warm leads, before you jump in.
That's great advice. And Mary, talking about products, when you first started, what was the first item that you designed and came up with?
I saw that question and I was thinking it was really more of a design that I created first, and kind of because everything that I do is very graphic driven. And then I apply that to an assortment of different products. So probably the first and most popular design that I've had is the 2 horses that they're grooming. People always say that they're hugging, but they're not hugging. We all know that horses don't hug. So that's been kind of my most popular and kind of signature design that I continue to roll out every year in different colorways or on new products and that sort of thing. And that's called the Lovey design. And it's inspired by my first horse, Lovey.
Cool. And how much time do you spend designing new products?
That's a great question. I would say probably about maybe 40-45% of my time. I mean, there's so many things that you have to do when you're the owner of your own business, that as much as I would like to spend more time working on the product development and the design aspect of it, I end up in other aspects of the business, selling or merchandising or working on inventory or accounting things or looking at spreadsheets, which I super duper love. But it's all part of it. So you have to be willing to kind of get your hands dirty in all of it, which is fun. But probably the design, and it's also kind of cyclical too. I mean, in the spring and early fall, or early spring, early fall, I spend a lot more time working on design because I'm rolling out new products, creating new designs. I'm getting things ready to launch for spring and then for fall. So, it tends to be heavier in the design hours around those times.
Cool. And Hope, you said kind of at the beginning you helped Tailored Sportsman with some of their designs. Is that something you still do and help companies, or do you just do it?
I do help companies, not specifically with them anymore, but if I can, routinely companies in the past have sent us product to talk about and to test and to check on and make sure that, things are right. A lot of the time it's sort of a funny process. It's really taking fabric out of the middle, which is a sort of funny thing to say. But, they'll make a pant shorter, but they'll take it off the bottom. But really you need it, when you shorten a garment, right? It's got to come from the middle, the crotch to knee. And, it doesn't just come off the bottom, because then you've got your knees too close to your feet. So there was a lot of teaching that went on, or riding coats, original riding jackets. And I think there's one sitting here that's an old tiny Tailored Sportsman I've had. And I lend it out to people, and then it comes back to me. It's a size 1. It was one of my first designs, and it's 20 something years old that my kids wore in lead line. And I literally took a coat and pulled it up in the middle and pinned it all the way across the waist. And said, that's how you make it, send it back in, take it out at all, stop taking it off the bottom. And we've done that with tack too. Saddles, notoriously, they whack the back of a saddle off and make it into a children's saddle, but that's not where it's got to come from, right? It's got to come out of the middle and up from the bottom. You can't just can't chop off the end. So it's been a fun ride with that, because we teach people really about it. It's not that those children's patterns aren't out there. It's just, if you remember, like, how often are small children in men's tailored suit coats? Right? Like, never. So the amount of manufacturers making suiting for children is almost non-existent. So they don't really understand the patterning. Now, RJ and everyone are brilliant at it. I've helped RJ a lot with their patterning, and that's been a lot of fun too. But in the earlier days, they've got it dialed in pretty well now.
Hope, I'll have to talk to you, because my 2-year-old might be doing lead line this winter.
My 1. I'll send you my 1. Yeah. And originally, just to back up a tiny bit, our first growth moment, other than retail, was we had a mail order catalog before the internet. And our mail order catalog was purely for children. And everything in it was children, and these amazing photography done by a very close friend of mine named Nina Ewing, who's passed away. But she did these really candid black and white. We were known for these like great candid photography of kids and ponies. And so we designed everything for us. We designed t-shirts. I went to Mexico and got paddock boots made that were about that big.
Oh.
And that was when you couldn't buy a little. So I had to buy 500 pairs per size.
Oh my gosh.
I had 500 size 5 toddler, which you know what size it is. You've had a toddler, right?
She's in it right now.
500 sizes, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 500 pairs of each one. I had them everywhere. I had them in the garage. I had them I guess true. My husband was like, what are we doing? We're buried in tiny little children's paddock boots. But it took about 15 years to sell them all.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes they crop up here and there. I'll find one will show up.
I have to say, I do have the problem with the breeches because I'm pretty short, and there are some pretty high-end brands now that are not made for short people like me, for very tall people.
I have an impossible time finding ones that fit well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, taking off the bottom has not been the solution. The knee's still down by my calf. So for sure. I found one brand that I really love that actually fits short people. And my friend who's very tall, who could wear the other brands, she was always, I can't wear them. They're way too short. I'm like, perfect for me.
Yeah. Well, at least the fabrics have improved. I mean, Mary's works with great fabrics. I mean, the fabrics you guys are working with now is so much better than what I mean. Tailored Sportsman 2-way stretch. Remember you could bend over this way, but forward, but nothing went sideways.
You know what I found too, as I've gotten older and changed shapes, that I can't wear the side zips anymore.
Oh God, no! I would never wear a side zip breech anymore.
No, and I am
after 2 kids. That would be dangerous.
Yes, yeah, and now I'm thankful for some high-waisted ones as well.
Yes.
There's all sorts of things. Yeah, I know. And then, it's fun. What's fun to sell, and I'm sure Mary does it a lot, are things that don't have to fit people, right? Like your bracelets and all the other, you have some great stock that doesn't.
I do very much love selling things that are not sized. It's just really, it's hard because, women's bodies especially, they're so different. And you want to have something that's going to work for every type of body, but if you're a small business, it's really hard to be able to buy an assortment like that or create enough product with that kind of, detailing in mind. So, it's something that I definitely focus on and try to be as inclusive as I possibly can. And hopefully as I grow, I'll be able to do more of that and be able to offer more expanded sizing and different sizing. But it is complicated. And, as you all know, we like things to fit our bodies exactly the way that we want them to fit. So we're all very particular, which is great that there's so many different options now and different brands that appeal to different kinds of bodies and everything. But it is challenging as a person who creates apparel to handle all of those requests and to make everybody happy. So I do love the non-sized items. Yes.
Yeah. I bought a couple of shirts over the summer and they were more for the fall, and I didn't really try them on when I got them, and they were small, which is my size normally. Well, I gave them to my smallest friend I know, and they didn't fit her. And I ended up giving them to a teenager at the barn who's this tiny, itty bitty, skinny thing. And I think they fit her, but we're in a size large in that brand. And I was just like, actually the large doesn't even really fit me. It fit my friend. And I sent back an extra large because it didn't fit. So I can imagine that it's a nightmare keeping that many styles in stock in all the different sizes for all the different shapes of people. It's gotta be.
It's challenging and it's frustrating because sometimes they will change sizing up just based on color or material. So you'll order what's typically a small, but it comes in this big. So and you're like, what am I going to do with this? I don't have not everyone that wants to buy my products weigh 80 pounds and are 4 feet tall. So this is not going to work. So
Yeah.
So, Mary, you have a lot of different collections I saw on your website, and they have a lot of different inspirations behind them, which I thought was really awesome. When you're putting together a vision, what's the inspiration behind and the vision that you see when you're starting to put together the collections?
Well, they're all driven by the people that and the horses that inspire the stories behind the collections. So I have a couple of collections that are just, they will always be part of the repertoire. I mean, they've just been really popular. They've been around since the beginning and they sell very well. So those kind of stay, but then I'll do seasonal collections, and those are based on different riders and horses in the community. So I ask, I'll find people either through social media or, actually I met a woman at Equitana who's the inspiration for one of my collections this fall, or the spring rather. And, it just comes kind of organically through people sharing their stories of their horses with me, or, how riding has changed their lives or how horses have changed their lives. And that to me is what inspires me and gets me excited. So those are the things that inspire the designs for the collection. So it's a pretty deep well of inspiring content as far as that goes.
And Hope, in your tack shop, do you put together outfits and inspirations for other people? And how do you do that? What kind of vision do you use while you're doing that?
We do a lot of merchandising, mannequin merchandising and putting things together. And then in our social media, we do a lot of flat lays, where you literally create outfit situations with that. Because as I mentioned earlier, lion's share is consignment now. Stuff moves in and out of our store at breakneck speed. As I was walking past somebody to go, we have 2 buildings. A man had a big, nice young guy was in with his little boy. And he said, I'm here to pick up the boots that my wife saw yesterday morning in the hallway. They're size 12 men's, Ariat. And my manager, they sold yesterday afternoon, So it is a learning curve for people who shop with us that, he's like, oh, she just should have picked them up yesterday. So for us, we do a lot, it's a very fast shuffle to keep up with the branding and the displays and the merchandising, but we do it all day, every day at all 3 stores. We're constantly changing up just to keep up with what's going on.
Mary, do you ever get stuck on vision or inspiration for a collection?
Absolutely. I mean, getting stuck is part of the design process. So, it's a journey, when you get the inspiration and the content to work with, getting from just thinking about it to drawing things out to, working with the colors and the arrangement of the different images within the patterns. I mean, that's always the hardest part, is like getting it just right. And also knowing when to stop. I mean, you can overwork things. So you have to be able to kind of take a step back and go, okay, is this working? Is it not working? And, sometimes I get, because I work pretty much by myself. So I'll put things out on social media and ask for feedback from my audience and see what they like. And that's sometimes really helpful in helping me just kind of make a decision about which pattern to go with, or if I have a couple of different variations. But yeah, getting stuck is just part of it. I mean, you just kind of have to anticipate it, know it's going to happen, and just have the tenacity to work through it and know that you'll get to the other side. It just may take a little bit of time.
And what do you do to stay inspired and keep evolving and moving forward and growing?
I think that's partly just it. For me, I think the inspiration comes from the passion that I have around horses and around design and creating things. I mean, that's just part of my DNA. So, I always tell my partner that like going to the barn is like visiting the muse. I have to go there and spend time and, get recharged and remember why I'm doing this in the first place. And that really does kind of get me going. And also, talking to my customers and being out and interacting with the people in my community and hearing their stories and hearing them talk about either how they would love the products or just their experiences with riding that and their horses, that really does kind of keep me inspired and excited about what I'm doing. So COVID's been a little stressful because you don't have those opportunities as much with a lot of shows being shut down and a lot of things that you normally where you'd be interacting with other people not happening. So that's been a little bit interesting just in terms of managing managing the isolation, I guess, a little bit there. But back to your original question, I mean, I think the inspiration just comes from just staying connected to the things that make you come alive. And for me, that's riding and horses and the creative process.
Well, that's good. And Hope, how about you? What keeps you evolving in your business?
We have a saying around here we've pivoted this business so often we pirouette. So we have had to, because we're old, and I'm old. Yesterday was my birthday, so I'm even older than I was the day before.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. That we've had to change. I mean, we've gone through so many technical, technology changes since we started. Just crazy, after the other, sort of chasing the technology. And what really interests me is how to provide a service for our customers the way they want to shop, right? And we're calling it now, the new word is omni-experiential, right? Is to reach them in any platform, in any given way, at any given moment that they would like to be sold to, purchase. But what's been mostly important to us is sense of community. Our mission is really important to us, and our culture, our Maryland salary culture, is ridiculously is just at the core of who we are. So, we like to say we're knowledgeable, but we're informative. So, like, we know a lot, but we want to give it all away. We have zero ego in the information that we have at Maryland Salary, and that excites me. Teaching people and showing them how to make things and do things and build things and anything they want to know. I'm very dyslexic. I'm a dyslexic adult and store owner and human. And I require a lot of repetition. And I feel like people don't get to hear things off and in a way that they can learn. And so we teach them in any way they need to know about anything they want to learn about. And that's super important. And we're super team focused and we're people centric. Like, we like making genuine human connections. And that's like what Mary was saying. Like, the genuine human connection is what has kept us grounded, because we really, as much as I like the internet and I'm excited about our new venture, which, I could talk about in a few minutes, but I love people coming through my door. They tell us about their horses. They show their pictures of their horses and talk about their kids and bring in their strollers. We have a duck that comes in a stroller. We have a guinea pig. We have a guinea pig and we have a turtle in a diaper that sometimes shows up, and a chicken. You just don't know. And that's what makes it fun. That keeps us grounded and excited about our silly world. But we have to keep growing. So that's what excites me also is new business ventures. So
yeah,
that's
yeah, that's so cool. Cause I think, that's what we're trying to do with Equestrian Businesswomen is be able to reach out and be a source for business owners to tap into the experience of everyone in this industry and be able to call on someone and lean on other people for advice and connections, and just having those conversations that can really lead you to that next step. So I love that is, your ethos in your business as well.
My mission with being a retail coach is really a business coach of any kind, is that people just don't know how to do things. And they're afraid to ask because then they think they're stupid or they should have known something, right? And when Mary said she loves spreadsheets, I think you were serious, right? You weren't joking. You like looking at your spreadsheets. Were you being serious or were you being facetious?
I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the spreadsheets, but I actually really do enjoy getting into the numbers and, kind of trying to figure things out. It's like a puzzle, so you have to enjoy kind of all aspects of the business if you're going to start a business, even if they're not your best, even if it's not what you're really good at, it still needs to excite you on some level. And I am embarrassed to say that my spreadsheets do excite me. So
see, I knew it. I knew you were joking.
They do. I look at my QuickBooks all the time. My accountant jokes. She's like, "You're like my only client that actually runs reports out of QuickBooks." I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I got to see what I'm doing."
Yeah. And it's important to know, we call it who, not how. Sometimes as a business owner, you have to know who to hire, not how to do something. And as we grow, who, not how is a huge idea that you have to embrace as a business owner. And if you don't, you get bogged down in learning. Like, the learning curve for us and why we started talking even to Jump Media is that we don't want to learn PR.
Right.
I don't want to know how to write, a press release or how to get my information placed in the right places. Like you guys know how, so I know who. I called you. So that's the who, not how. That if you don't love spreadsheets, then you hire someone who does.
Yes.
Because if you can't just ignore an aspect of your business, just like Mary's saying, you have to embrace all of it. It doesn't mean you have to do all of it, but you
Right.
have to you have to participate in all of it somehow and be part of that as a great business. And that's incredibly important. And so, like my phone is always on. People can call my cell and ask me the most ridiculous business questions. And I'm happy to, steer you. I mean, I have people calling like, how do I fire somebody? Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something they don't know how. They have to get like a big mad on, right? And I'm going to think of 7,000 reasons I hate this person so I can get mad enough to fire them, right? I got to get fired up to fire them. But, you don't need to get fired up to fire them. You have one reason. They're late too much. Goodbye, right? But you have to give people permission as business owners to not have to do these crazy things that they don't know how to do. So we teach everyone how to do anything they need to know.
Yeah. That's such a good point, because I mean, how do you know if you've never done it? How do you know if, you're doing something for the first time? And being able to reach out and have someone like you with 30 plus years of experience and rely on, this is what I did. It worked for me. I think it could work for you. Or you're in a totally different situation. You need to reassess and find a different way to do it. That's so important. And being able to ask for help is what's, a key thing, especially if you're like Mary and you're the only person in your business and you're doing it yourself. Being able to ask for help is so important.
It's actually brave. I read that quote recently. Asking for help is brave. And as horse people, we're super independent, right? Like we can wrangle that horse. We can catch that loose horse. We can make him pick his foot up. We can do all these, like, we're tough, independent people. That's like our DNA, right? And so then you don't know when you need to ask for help sometimes because you're so used to like figuring it out.
Just do it yourself. Figure it out. Yes.
But sometimes like you just don't know. And you only know what you know, as we say.
Yeah.
So,
or you don't know what you don't know.
You know what you don't know. And this is really funny like that. And there's a lot of help out there for business, and there's a lot of data to help you navigate your business.
Yeah. And I think people in this industry kind of get stuck in the mindset that I deal with horses and it's different. We're in a different industry and it doesn't apply. It truly does. A business is a business, and everything that people have learned for decades can still apply to you, no matter, if you're teaching lessons or, you're designing shirts and selling them. I think that kind of advice applies no matter what industry you're in.
It could be yarn.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it doesn't make a difference, to be honest with you. You have so many horses, you have so many skeins of yarn. I mean, really, it's all numbers.
I mean, I think that's really like the point of Equestrian Business Women. A lot of it is to show people that, we have to step up and start running this business like it's a business and, really take into account business.
Right. And running it in a professional way. And like you said, you're always growing and evolving, and what's the next thing? And you're never going to grow or evolve if you're not asking others and seeing how things are done outside of our little world.
I mean, we've talked about this before with other guests about like just the European influence of clothing now, right? And how they had to make rule changes in order for us to be able to wear colors and, be a little bit more bold. And I think that was that shows how stuck the equine industry was for so long. Mm-hmm. And now with all these new fabrics and everything and all the changes, especially in the past couple of years, I feel like, okay, we're at a time where everybody's starting to grow. So let's start being a little more professional in the business too.
Yeah, we talked to a guest in one of the early episodes about, even just falling in line with, are you paying overtime correctly to your grooms or, people who work for you? Are you following all of those rules that good businesses do? And I think there's still some room for growth there as well.
I think one of the key things to have is just a learner's mindset, to always be open to new opportunities and new ways of doing things. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to start doing them that way, or it's going to change everything about the way you run your business, but that you keep an open mind and are open to those different possibilities. To me, that's always been really important, is not to get too stuck in one way. And Hope does a great job of pivoting and changing and, being aware of what's going on in the greater world around her and changing her business and, adding to her business to accommodate that. And I think, we all have to do that, no matter if you're training horses, selling horses, or you're in the retail business, just being aware of the bigger picture out there. That's the one thing that I find interesting about the horse world, is that even for signing up for horse shows, a lot of times I'm mailing in my entry fees, like with a stamp and an envelope. I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. Why? I feel like there's got to be a way we could do this digitally at this point in time. It's just kind of those kind of obvious things that I think sometimes this industry tends to overlook because it's just kind of always been done a certain way. So,
yes.
And that's a metaphor for so many things, but it is interesting. And I think, just the key to being successful is being open to change and, being open to new ideas and realizing that doesn't take away from what happened before, or it doesn't replace anything. It's just, now we have this whole new set of tools that we can work with, or this whole new design motif that we can wear, or whatever it is. It's just adding, it's not taking away.
Yeah. That's a great thought.
Some of it is, like you said, a sort of classic issue in our business, which is we're sort of expert centric, right? You have a trainer, you have a barn owner, you have a vet, you have a farrier. It's a certain amount of professionals that you tuck under, right? And you are very respectful of and listen to. And if they like this or don't like this, you wear this or don't wear that. And we grew up with old crotchety horsemen who taught you to do certain things. And there's not so many around anymore, but that's kind of the way I grew up as well in barns in New York, where, you listen to whatever the old guy said. And, he told you to stand there and hold a horse for 6 hours. You stood there, held a horse for 6 hours, whatever it was. But that bred a certain amount of hero worship that has actually, I feel, been detrimental to our world as business people, because really as a business, you should be what we call through WizBang, we call WWMCW, what would my customer want, right? That's how you run your business. WWMCW, what would my customer want? Not what I want, what would my customer want? So in retail, we've kind of figured that out. The customer's always right, all this other stuff. And one of the successes of my business is that we've taken away every hump there is. If you want to bring something back that you bought 5 years ago, okay. If you ate half of it and want to bring it back, okay. If you brought something back that you didn't buy from me, okay. I don't care, because I'm looking at the lifetime value of my customer, right? It's back to this customer idea. But what happens in the horse business is you've got somebody who's sort of a talking head trainer who's pushy, and then you've got their customers. They really are their customers. They call them their customers, but they don't treat them as customers. They treat them as people who should listen to them the way they say. And even if somebody's like, they start arguing, that somebody leaves, right? They've lost a customer, but they're like, fine, they're gone. I'm happy. No, you're not. You just lost a lot of money. But they don't think of it that way. It's still sort of the hairdresser syndrome, right? Like changing hairdressers, changing barns, changing things. But you watch the smart ones. You watch the smart trainers and the smart programs and the really good ones who have done what Mary is saying. They've pivoted. They have new tools in there. They're reaching their customers with emails, and they're telling them ahead of time what's happening next week with schooling shows, and they're letting them sign up online, and they're going places, doing things. These are successful businesses because they're using the tools we have now. They're not, bullying them into doing things the way we all kind of grew up that way. So it's interesting to see the evolution.
And Hope, what was your strategy when building your brand and your target audience?
Inclusivity. And that's it. What do you want? What can I get you? And how do I get it? And how do I make you feel happy wearing it? And how do I make you want to hang out with us? And how do we make you loyal to our brand? Because remember, you don't have to shop with me, you know? And so when life got tough and Dover opened up around the corner, tried to buy our store, and we said, no, I think we'll stay in business a little bit longer. We were 19 years into business when Dover tried to buy us. And they said, well, we'll just put you out of business. If you don't let us buy you, we'll just put you out of business. And we were like, oh, that was bad. And it was bad. We lost 40% of our share the first year that Dover opened. But we opened our consignment store across the parking lot. And that saved our lives because people who we thought we knew everybody in the whole wide world, turned out there was an enormous population of horse people in the state of Maryland we had never met. And within the first year of opening a consignment store, we had 1,000 people. I'd been in business 20 years. 1,000 people I'd never met shopped in the consignment store across the parking lot and still wouldn't walk across to my store.
Right.
We sat there with our noses pressed against the glass, watching everybody shopping consignment. And no one came to visit us. They were going to Dover and my consignment store. And that was it.
Huh.
But fast forward, we realized we weren't giving the shopping experience to all 5 shoppers, right? You've got new and used, 70-30, 70-30, 50-50. So the person in the middle is shopping both displays. These people are partial. These people shop either new or used. That's 5 shoppers. We're like, oh, we've only been selling to 1.
Oh.
So that's 4 more people than you had when you're just a store. And I'm willing to tell anybody this. Like, this isn't a secret. Like, any tax shop that wants to learn how to do it, call me. I'll help you out. Like, there's no competition. The world's wide enough, right?
Yeah.
But we had to stop selling Cosequin. We had to stop selling buckets. We had to stop selling commodity. So we built our brand more uniquely. Like, you get to come in and see really interesting things that we love. We bring in scary stuff. We bring in all the fun little things that you're not going to see everywhere, and also new and used. And so now we're building bigger. We're trying to do it nationally and do our same thing, on a national platform, but with a true donation. 501c3 is our push. That's for our next chapter.
Yeah. Still keeping that core mission at heart, no matter what you're doing or how you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe even raising thousands of dollars hopefully raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for 501c3s around the country in our industry.
And Mary, I know that that inclusivity is a very big part of your brand as well. Was there a specific strategy, and given your professional background, about building your brand?
No, I mean, I think, again, kind of going back to when I got back into writing and I started looking around at what was going on, it was so shockingly similar to what I had left 20 years prior. It was just the same kind of stereotypical woman that you saw with the horses, the skinny, white, blonde woman. I mean, I know that sounds a lot like kind of me too, so I get that. But, but then I look around and I see all different kinds of people riding, all different kinds of bodies, all different kinds of shapes, all different colors of people, all different kinds of people. And, it always bothered me on a fundamental level that I didn't see that when I opened a Dover catalog. They've gotten much better about it now, so I don't mean to call Dover out, but just because that's the only one. Everybody knows what Dover is. But yeah, I mean, to me, that was just really important, that it wasn't just a sport for a certain kind of person, that anybody could get into riding, and horses were accessible to any kind of person. Now, granted, it can be a cost prohibitive sport, but that's another conversation. But what I really wanted to do was be able to show any person that they belonged in the sport. Kind of, you think about like how golf used to be before Tiger Woods, or tennis before Venus and Serena Williams. I mean, it was like very much a very traditional sport. It attracted a certain kind of person. And, how do you ask someone to see themselves in a sport or in anything if they can't actually see themselves? So that's something that I just really felt strongly about including in my brand and as part of my business, is that this is not just about one kind of person. It's about every kind of person. And you don't have to write English. You don't have to even ride. I mean, I don't care if you ride horses at all. If you love horses and that's part of something that you're passionate about, then you belong with Mare. And that was the thought behind the strategy there.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
So what are your plans for future growth, Hope, if you want to start?
Oh, thank you. So we've opened a new wing of Maryland Saddlery called everythinghorses.com. It is a national website. We were across from Mary at RRP in our orange tent with our orange everything. RRP was a really dream week. It was so much fun. If you haven't done a Retired Racehorse Project in Kentucky, it's a really sweet week. People are so, talk about inclusive, right? They're the most, I've never been around 500 plus horsemen and horses who are more cheering each other on for a week, a diverse group than this week. And so it was really kind of fun. We introduced it at RRP to the world that Maryland Saddlery is now doing something called everythinghorses.com. Everythinghorses.com is, like I said, a national consignment website, but with a 501c3 nonprofit twist where every single solitary purchase donates 2% to the 501c3 of the choice of the consignor. So if you send in goods to us, you get to choose from now we have about 5 or 6, but we're about to roll out another 15 501c3s to choose from. And then we all sell goods for 501c3s. We teach pony clubs. Like we're going to be a pony club convention this weekend, teaching the DCs how to, you have 20 kids in your pony club. They each bring in 5 items. You've got 100 items to consign to donate to your pony club. You can make a lot of money really quickly, and we'll sell the goods for you and send you the money. So we're trying to find a way to really crack open how to take stuff, turn it into money so that these 501c3s and these nonprofits can feed their horses and help their kids and come up with scholarship funds. Because it's great that people want to dump stuff on them, but you can't feed a horse with a blanket that doesn't fit anybody. And they're stuck with a lot of that. So we pay the ship, they send it in to us, we sell it, then we give you money. So that's our newest, and we're very excited about it.
That's really great. And how does somebody become part of your 501c3? Is there an application?
It's really super simple. If you go on everythinghorses.com in the contact us, you can suggest a 501c3. We work with an incredible company called Daily Karma, is actually also a nonprofit. They collect all the funds that are earmarked, and then they also test out if the 501c3 is legit. And so we just type in, we have a retreat at Beckleysville, Mary Shunk, we put it in, boop, pops up 24 hours later, you become one of our 501c3s. There's zero cost involved. I mean, it's really crazy not to get in touch with us and give us your cause. We'll raise money for you the best we can.
Oh, that's great. I'm actually on the board of a 501c3.
Good.
I know. I have another one that I'm like, got to apply.
Yeah, just send it to us. We'll take care of it.
Mary, where do you think your growth is headed?
I think for me, it's still, I still feel like I am a brand baby. So maybe coming into my toddler phases at this point, it's really kind of getting more streamlined on my product offerings and, how I'm reaching new customers. My goal for this year is really to branch out of maybe the eventing world a little bit and get out into different, in front of different audiences. So I'm doing a bunch of different events. I'm doing Equine Affair in Ohio. I'm going to do Road to the Horse in Kentucky, in addition to Land Rover and some other, bigger shows, but really just trying to get in front of new audiences and expand that because, as I mentioned before, it's not just about, Mare's not a brand for a certain type of discipline focused rider. It's really about just the love of horses. So really trying to get in front of more and different audiences for this year is probably one of my bigger goals.
Great. Well, it's exciting to hear where you guys are heading with your businesses and the evolution of it. And we really want to thank you for coming on today and talking with us and sharing all of your knowledge and your experiences. I think it's been really cool to learn more about you and everything that you do. So at the end of each episode, we ask the same 3 rapid fire questions to our guests. And Connor starts with the first one.
All right. So Mary, we'll start with you. So what is one action that women can take to make a big difference in their lives?
Just a little question. I was thinking about this, and I think I don't know if it's an action or a mindset, but I feel as women, we tend to be afraid to do things until we have all of the information and we know everything about it, versus just maybe going with gut feeling or being more open to taking a risk. And I think as a business person, yes, it's important to do all your homework. It's important to do your research. Like, I can't stress that enough. But at the end of the day, you also just kind of have to go for it and understand that you're going to learn along the way, and that you don't know everything and you can't know everything, and nobody knows everything, and no men know everything, no women know everything. So you figure it out as you go. And there is a lot of support and help in our community for people that are starting businesses. I mean, like Hope has said, she's a great resource. I mean, I'm always an open door for anything that anybody, you can ask me literally anything about my business and I'll probably tell you the answer. So I want to see people succeed. I want others to feel confident and courageous in taking the risks and doing the things that they love to do too. And understanding that there's a lot of hard work involved, but that you don't have to be the expert. You can start something and go for it. So I think just finding that courage and finding that confidence, I wish I could give that to every woman out there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And Hope, how about you? What's one action that women can take to make a big difference in their lives?
It's funny because I'm right in the same vein. I was going to say have courage and don't expect everything to be perfect. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Perfection is a soul crusher. And it actually, you think you're waiting for perfection, but you don't know enough to know what's perfect. So you might as well just dump it and move on. And confidence comes after courage, only after courage. You have to live slightly. So like the best thing you can do is live slightly out of your comfort zone. If you're living in your comfort zone, you're living small. So you have to live outside your comfort zone. You have to do something that scares you. And if it doesn't scare you, it's not a good choice. It really isn't. It's just, sitting and watching Netflix. So yeah, you have to live outside your comfort zone. Try something bold.
Take the leap.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole thing about perfection too is super, super important, because you can overwork something and grind away trying to make it exactly perfect, and it's never going to happen. And honestly, it's just the thing that keeps you from taking the risk at the end of the day. It's just, to me, it's just keeping you kind of safe because you haven't actually put it out there. So even if you don't think it's perfect, just do it. I mean, the market will tell you if it's good or not, and then you can just make decisions from there.
And the first thing you do isn't the only thing you do. So the first thing is never going to be perfect, right? And, working towards it is the goal and what you should be doing. It's the next one's going to be better, and the next one's going to be better. And just, like you said, taking the risk to get it started is what's important.
And I think too, just thinking about it, and this does sound super cliche, but you really have to enjoy the journey aspect of the business more so than the destination. I mean, if you're not enjoying what's getting you from point A to point B, then you shouldn't be doing it, because that's all this is. I mean, it's, at the end of the year, you can look at your P&Ls and be like, oh, it was a great year. Okay, now what? I mean,
right.
You start over.
Were you miserable for that year?
Yeah.
Did you hate that year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You really do have to just enjoy the process of it. And there's so much in that.
Yeah. And Hope, what is the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
Gratitude. Some people do gratitude journals. Some people say at night the 3 things they're most grateful for. Some people wake up in the morning and do gratitude is it. Live in the moment, and being grateful is living in the moment that you're in. You cannot live in the gap, which is the place between where you are and where you want to be, like what you're talking about, the horizon. Living gratefully means you're living today, because you cannot give up today for tomorrow's worries. Like, you have to live today. You don't know if you have tomorrow, to be honest with you. As my father would say, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. So just, so gratitude. Wake up grateful. Go to bed grateful.
Awesome. And Mary, what is the best habit that keeps you motivated personally?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm going to go with Hope's answer as well. I mean, it really, truly is the thing that keeps you grounded, and the thing that keeps you focused, and the thing that keeps you in today's world versus tomorrow's worries and last week's failures or whatever. I mean, to me, it's just like it's the most important thing that you can do is to find gratitude for what you have and what you're creating and the opportunity that you have to do it. I mean, not everyone can or does do that, and just being mindful of those kinds of things and finding that time too. I mean, I started meditating a couple of years ago, and it really does help just to keep me focused and grounded and learn how to stay in the present, because I can be a worrywart and a very anxious person. So it's the thing that I have to do in order to keep my sanity too. But it's important for everyone, I think. So those are habits that I think are just really important.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. What's your favorite horse movie?
All right, there are a million of them, but I love Secretariat because as a kid, I had a huge crush on Steve Coffin. And I got to meet him as a kid. And oh my God. And so, there are a lot of horse movies out there, but because of Steve Coffin and Secretariat, and even though you know the ending, you like the movie.
Yep.
Yeah. And Mary, how about you? What's your favorite horse movie?
Mine was always the Black Stallion, only because I just love that beach scene where he's like galloping down the beach.
Yeah.
No bridle, like how that kid stayed on, I would die immediately. It's always the thing that in my mind I go back to when I'm thinking, one day I'm going to ride like that.
Yeah.
I definitely think that the Black Stallion is winning for everybody.
Yeah.
That like at least one guest every episode says Black Stallion. So yeah.
That's funny. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, we've had an amazing time talking with you, and thank you so much for your time and for being on with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
That was such a good talk today with Hope and Mary. They were so articulate and had so much cool information to share about business, and I just loved how open they both are about wanting to help people, and anyone can have their phone number or can email them with questions. And I just loved that about both of them.
Yeah, I thought they were both really awesome. And I loved how Hope, I didn't know that she was, part of that business retail group to help people. So that's pretty awesome because she seemed to have a lot of knowledge, deep knowledge of business. And I liked her ideas. And I think she gave us really good information for any kind of business. But, the talk about business, right? That we need more professionalism and changing things.
Yeah. The fact that she's a mentor and she helps people organize and grow their business, I thought was a very happy surprise to know that she does that.
Yeah. It like matches up so well with us, right? And what we're trying to accomplish. So I really like that. And Mary is really inspiring with her designs and her innovation. And, she does a lot of pretty big stuff with design. And, I was so fortunate to meet her at Equitana. She was there, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give her a card because I think this is probably a woman-owned business and we should talk to her and see how she's going to. And also, you should go on her website and check out her clothing because there's some pretty cool.
Oh, I have. And there are things that I want to buy.
Yeah.
And I forgot what I was just going to say. Oh, I also loved how much they both talked about inclusivity and making that such an important part of their mission of their businesses, and, how they want to make that front and center in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. And when I was looking at Mary's website, there's a really cool part of it where you can go on and you can look at all the people that have inspired her for the different collections. And it's just such a diverse group of people. And that was super impressive to me.
They were both really inspiring, and I'm glad we got to talk to them.
Yeah, I loved Mary saying that, you really need to have the learner's mindset and be open. And then one thing that I took away from Hope was saying that you have to have the who, not the how. So, I think that's pretty relevant in everybody's business. Like, you don't actually have to do it yourself, but you've got to figure out who can do it for you.
Yeah. Really tangible pieces of advice for the episode.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to the next one.
As always.
Find the links to today's guests and the show notes at www.eqbusinesswomen.com. Equestrian B2B is out twice a month on the 1st and the 15th.
You can follow Equestrian Businesswomen on Facebook and Instagram. Find Equestrian B2B podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. You can have all 20 plus shows of the Horse Radio Network with you wherever you go with our free app for iPhone and Android. Go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network.
Now, go get creative.